Peace ladies, welcome back to the Modern Goddess channel. So in this video I'm going to share with you a few suggestions to help you remain present during tough conversations as opposed to becoming defensive. There are many women who want to be less combative, less argumentative, less disagreeable. They want to take a more feminine approach to some of these conflicting conversations. However, they feel that once they become offended, like everything that they learn kind of just goes out of the window. Like, I don't want to be argumentative, or I don't want to shut down Sarah Lena, but how can I not become defensive in the first place? Because once I become defensive, that's it, right? So hopefully this will help those of you that feel like you can relate to that or that struggle in this area. Now I'm going to share 4 tips with you. 2 of them are things that you need to be doing proactively. So things that you do before the conversation starts, things that you need to just be working on just for you as an individual. And then the other 2 are things that you will be able to implement in the heat of the moment, right? So the first one is going to be a proactive one, and that is you speaking to a professional, finding a therapist, a psychiatrist, or talking to someone that can help you identify what your triggers are. Helping you to identify what is at the root of that defensiveness. What is it that you are seeing or hearing just in general, not just from your partner, but from people in general, that causes you to feel like you have to defend yourself. Like, where are these defense mechanisms coming from? What's at the root of that? What's the cause of it? Is it something dealing with a past relationship? Is it something dealing with your childhood? Is it something rooted in fears and insecurities? What is it? And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by this. Let's say a woman has a fear of abandonment, and her partner's talking to her, and he's saying to her like, well, listen, I'm telling you this as a friend, because whether or not we work out, whether or not we are together or not, this is something that you need to know. Now, a person that has a fear of abandonment might hear that and completely misconstrue his words. She might only hear the part about whether we work out or not. And so in her mind, she might be thinking, well, he doesn't think that we're going to last, or he doesn't have any intentions of putting an effort in relationship to making sure that we stay together forever, or whatever. Like, all of these fears and insecurities kick in, and then the next thing you know, the defense mechanisms kick in, and now she's shutting down, or now she's arguing with him, or now she's being all cold and dismissive towards him because she feels like she has to protect herself, right? She's self-sabotaging. Well, the whole time, his mind, he's thinking, well, I just want to let her know that I love her so much that even if we don't work out, I still want what's best for her, right? But because, again, of whatever fears or insecurities that you may have, you are instantly triggered, and now you're responding inappropriately. So being aware of what those are so that you can start working on those things and healing from those things and having a better system in place for when you hear those things, because people are going to say things that trigger you. And that's just life. You can't control how other people choose to articulate themselves or express themselves. So you're going to hear things that upset you sometimes, but being aware of what your triggers are and having enough self-control to choose what you are going to allow to get you out of your character. That is what's really important. And also understanding that it isn't anyone else's responsibilities to heal you. Now, you want your partner to be instrumental in your healing, and vice versa, but it's not his responsibility to walk on eggshells in order to not say things that are going to trigger you, and vice versa. So he should be able to express himself freely as long as he's still being respectful, and you should be able to do the same thing. You just need to work on those triggers. Another reason why this one is also very important is because if you have the type of man that thinks he's good at analyzing people, and it's not that he thinks, maybe he is good at it, but if you have that type of man, he is going to tell you about yourself. He's going to give you a full assessment if you're doing things like that, right? So let's say you get triggered by something he says. He may look at you and be like, oh, the only reason you mad is because your mama is the blah, 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 or your childhood or your upbringing and blah, 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 blah. Like, and just bringing up all of these things that you believe have absolutely nothing to do with the topic at hand. And now you're even more offended because you're not understanding why he's mentioning these things, right? In his mind, he's thinking, well, I'm trying to help her understand the root of this, that I'm not the problem, that the problem exists within herself that she needs to heal from, blah, 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 blah. That's his intention, maybe, for some of them. But you're not going to feel like that, especially if he does it like all of the time, if he does it very often. So you going ahead and getting that help that you need can prevent him from having to throw it in your face as much, because you will already know and you won't need to hear it from him. The second thing that you can do is something that you can do in the heat of the moment during the conversations, and that is being self-aware of what your body is doing and how you are feeling in your body. So let's start with what your body is doing, meaning what are the nonverbal cues that you are displaying. I am going to use myself and my husband as an example for how this works and how it prevents you from becoming too defensive, right? So when I don't like what I'm hearing, or if I'm feeling overly emotional, or if I feel attacked, or if I'm shutting down, there are a few different things that my body does. Some of these things I learned on my own. Some of these things my husband pointed out to me. So I may play with my fingers like this. I'll be looking at him still, but my fingers will do this weird thing, right? Or my leg might shake like this. Or I'll play with my eyebrows, my forehead, my temples a little bit, or I will bite on or suck on my bottom lip like this, right? Now, when my husband sees me doing these things, because we've discussed it, he will usually pause and he'll reach out and he'll touch me. So let's say I'm playing with my fingers. He'll reach out and he'll touch my hand, grab my hand and hold it, and he'll just kind of give me a look where he's kind of like, you okay? You know, and either I'll be like, I'm good, like I'm still here, or I might be like, no, I'm not okay, right? Or he'll just say to me like, look, I'm not arguing with you. I see that your body is doing X, Y, Z. This is not an attack. So he'll give me whatever type of reassurance I need to make sure that I'm still present, I'm still engaged, so that he can continue saying whatever it is he has to say, right? But he doesn't, let me say this, he doesn't ever look at that and be like, oh, you're not paying attention, you all distracted, and you upset, you emotional. He doesn't do that, you know, because he's aware of the cues. Now he's able to take a better approach. And so again, he'll either reach out and touch my hand, he'll reach out and touch my leg, or he'll just point out what it is I'm doing, because he knows what comes after that. Now, it is not his responsibility to do that. But because we want to have productive conversations, we both make a collaborative effort, you know, when it comes to these things. So the same way that he does that, I do the same thing for him, right? Like one of the things that he may do is he talks with his hands a lot when he's communicating, right? He's one of those guys. And I noticed that when he's talking with his hands, if he's really upset, if he doesn't like what he's hearing, or if he doesn't like how I'm responding, or if he just doesn't like the direction of the conversation, his hands may shake a little bit. Like he might do this and his hands might be shaking a little bit. And so again, I'll have to either go in and touch his hand gently, or I'll adjust my posturing, my tone of voice, my facial expression, or I'll know that when it's my turn to speak, I need to respond with compassion and understanding. So again, we have this understanding of what our bodies are doing, and we help one another stay present. But again, it's not our responsibility to do that. We just do it because we love each other and want productive conversations. Now, when I am able to catch myself doing this, and that's the thing with being self-aware, is you being able to identify what you are doing and correcting it in the moment, right? So if I find that I'm playing with my fingers, right, I should be able to spot it out before he does, because I'm the one that's doing it. But if I do spot it out, it's my responsibility to stop, correct myself, recenter, take a deep breath, and refocus, right? Continue to be attentive and hear whatever it is that he's saying, right? Because I know that if I'm doing this, I know what comes after that. What comes after that is me saying something that is not nice, or is me saying absolutely nothing at all for the rest of the day and just shutting down, or whatever. Right? So being aware of what that is. Now, the other part of that, like I said, is what you are feeling in your body, right? So what does it physically feel like to you inside when you are becoming defensive? For many women, they become hot, like they can feel the heat rising in their body. When you feel that heat rising, don't let it get all the way up here. Stop it as soon as you notice it happening. And this is one of the few times I think it is okay to interject. These are one of the few times I think it is appropriate to interrupt your partner speaking. You do so lovingly though, of course. You might want to lean in. You feel that heat rising, you lean in, you touch them gently like, look babe, I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to finish this conversation. I'm not even asking that we take a break, but I can feel myself getting heated. I can feel myself getting upset. And just explain to him what it is that you feel, right? Just let him know, like, I don't want to have to repeat this conversation. I want this to be productive. I want both of us to be heard. So I don't know, can we reset? Can we recenter? Could you possibly change your tone a little bit, or whatever requests you may have? Maybe he needs to work on his delivery. Maybe he's too aggressive in that moment. Maybe he's too close to you. Maybe he needs to back up. Just whatever adjustments need to be made, you all work on that and then go ahead and continue in the conversation. But if you just sit there and you know that you feel the heat rising and you just keep allowing it to happen and you don't say anything, then you're going to have to repeat the conversation all over again, or it's going to turn into a big argument. Things are going to become escalated, right? So being able to either interject, interrupt, gently lean in, touch him on the leg, like, look babe, I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to finish hearing you, and I'm going to finish hearing you. I'm just asking that we make this adjustment because this is what I'm feeling right now. So that announcing it, because he can't feel what you feel. Only you know what you're feeling, right? So it's your responsibility to speak on that. Or if you have enough self-control, just when you feel yourself heating up, take a deep breath. Take 2 or 3 deep breaths. And they don't need to be exaggerated deep breaths like because that is dismissive, but taking real deep breath, inhaling and exhaling to calm yourself down. So like really taking some deep breaths, massaging your pressure points, rubbing your skin softly, reminding yourself that you're safe in the moment, doing what you need to do to calm yourself down, taking a sip of water if you have some near you. So being able to self-correct, self-regulate, self-soothe, whatever you need to do in that moment. And this approach is helpful not just when you become defensive, but if you find yourself kind of losing focus as well, this can also be helpful. So an example, I'll use my husband and I as an example again. Let's say that he's talking to me, because he can be kind of long-winded sometimes. So let's say he's giving one of his long monologues, right? And it could be in the middle of the day where I'm the most energetic. I will become sleepy. I will just immediately start feeling very tired. When I feel that, he doesn't feel it, I feel it. And so when I start feeling myself become tired or sleepy, it is my responsibility to interject, to say, all right, listen babe, I want to finish hearing you out, because this is a very important conversation. I can tell that this means a lot to you. I can feel myself starting to kind of lose focus a little bit. Is it okay if I go ahead and respond to some of the things that you just said? Can I go ahead and address these things so that I won't forget them? You don't have to repeat yourself or anything like that, right? And usually he's perfectly okay with that. Now, every once in a while, you're like, I just got one more point. Just get one more thing to say and I'm finished. But regardless of his response to it, as long as he is aware now that I want to have the conversation, I'm present in the moment, but I am beginning to lose focus. If he or just any other man in general hears something like that and they just choose to ignore it and decide, well, I want to talk for another 20-30 minutes, then they just going to have to deal with whatever comes with that. And if what comes with that is them walking away feeling unheard, then that's their own fault, right? But being able to gently, again, this is the only time that I think it is okay to interrupt. That is the only time I think it's okay. And as long as you're doing it with love and you're doing it understanding, you start off with the intentions from the get-go and you're very soft and sweet about it. Babe, king, listen. The third one is also going to be something that you're able to do in the heat of the moment. This one is called listening for feelings. Now, ladies, this is a technique that takes a lot of practice and it requires compassion and empathy. Now, If these are things that you struggle with, doing this can help you learn a little bit of compassion and empathy. But the goal here is for you to have an understanding of what it is that person is saying, kind of putting yourself in their shoes a little bit, and being concerned and considering their feelings within all of this as well. And the reason why this is very important is because if you are dealing with a masculine man, chances are he's not a very I feel type of man when he is expressing himself. It's very possible, and it's more than likely, that when he expresses himself, that it just sounds like a direct statement. He may come across as very assertive and very straightforward about what he's thinking, what he wants, what he believes the problem is, and it doesn't sound like he's saying I feel this or I feel that. But usually that is exactly how they express themselves. They express themselves by telling you what the issue is, what needs to be solved, because they feel like if they can just get to the root of what the problem is, they won't feel whatever it is they're feeling. And so what usually happens is that a woman will perceive that as her man just being mean or rude or grumpy or just frustrated or just angry, right? So I'll give you an example. Let's say your man says to you, see, that's why I don't like talking to you. You think you know everything. You don't listen to nobody. And he says it like that. And he says it in his tone of voice, however he speaks, right? Now, most women will hear that and think, well, he's feeling frustrated. He's feeling angry. He's feeling disrespected. And that's very possible, right? But feeling disrespected and irritated and frustrated and things like that, those are all feelings associated with anger. And anger is a secondary emotion. What comes before that? Like, what happened before that, right? So if someone were to say that, kind of dissect that. Let's say someone were to say to you, I don't like talking to you because you don't listen. You think you know everything. If you really peel that back, instead of you going in and feeling like you have to defend yourself and arguing with this person, being able to understand that they're saying this because they probably feel unheard. They probably feel like you don't appreciate or value their input. They are probably saying this because they feel kind of dismissed, or what they're saying has been disregarded in some way, right? So you have to understand that your man is able to feel emotions outside of just anger, outside of just frustration. He feels other things, even though he may not express them to you. That doesn't mean he doesn't feel them. It doesn't make a difference how macho or masculine he is. There's still a little boy in there somewhere that has regular human feelings. And so when you perceive your man as just this robot that doesn't have other feelings, then when he goes to express himself to you and he's telling you what the problem is, what affected him, what his concern is, you're just going to think of him as someone that's attacking. You're just going to think of him as some big angry man. But when you're able to allow yourself to consider, well, maybe he's feeling something else. Maybe it's something deeper than just anger. Then you're able to be a little bit more compassionate and a little bit more empathetic to his needs. And understand also, ladies, that, well, first of all, a man should learn how to express himself a little bit better in a healthier way. Realistically, though, if you have not created that safe space for him to be vulnerable in that way, he's not going to be. Right? So they call themselves being vulnerable when they're communicating with you in that way. But if you want him to soften his approach a little bit, that doesn't mean he's going to talk to you like a lady. But if you want him to be just a little bit more verbal as far as saying to you, I don't feel like you value me, or I don't feel like you appreciate me, as opposed to coming in and just making a whole bunch of critiques and ridicules, then you have to provide that safe space. And if you're not being compassionate, if you're not being empathetic, if you're not being understanding, then yeah, you're not creating a safe space, and he's going to feel like he has to talk to you in whichever way he needs to get the point across, which the point isn't getting across because now you're becoming offended and defensive because of the way he is saying it. So you two are getting absolutely nowhere with it, right? But yes, listening for feelings. It is a challenge because you're literally listening for words that are not being said, but that's why you need to pause. Pause before you respond. Take the time to try to process what it is you heard him say. And understanding he's not saying it for no reason. He's saying it because clearly he feels some type of way. So practicing empathy, putting yourself in their shoes, pausing, processing what it is you heard a little bit before you respond, that can prevent you from becoming too defensive. And lastly, number 4, and this is something that you need to be proactive with. Initiate more conversations. I cannot stress this enough. Ladies, if you are in a situation where it is your man doing most of the conversation starting, like he's coming to you all of the time and he's telling you you're doing this wrong and you're doing that and this is a problem for me and hold yourself accountable to this and you still haven't apologized for that and blah, 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 blah. Like he has all these requests and demands and all these adjustments he wants you to make, but it's completely one-sided because you're never initiating it, then yes, you're going to become defensive. You're not going to be able to receive anything that he's saying because you're suppressing your needs, your desires, your requests, your concerns. You need to initiate those conversations and don't just state those things as a rebuttal or as a response to what he says, because that's what a lot of women do. They'll wait until he comes to them. Like you'll wait till your man comes to you, and then after he's voiced his concern, you'll think, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for me to talk about how I feel or what my concerns are. That is the worst time to do it. You're not going to be heard. So don't wait until he has said what it is he has to say. You initiate those conversations. You go up to him. Like, hey, baby, I want to talk to you about something. Something I've been meaning to tell you. I've had this on my mind for a while, or however you want to preface it, but you need to go in and you need to start some of those conversations. And that way, when he does come to you and he's expressing himself, it won't feel like an attack. It'll feel like, as two mature adults, this is just what you do. You talk to him when you got a problem. He talks to you when he has a problem. That's what you do. And then you can reach your solutions together, and you won't have to keep having the same problems over and over and over again, right? But you will feel less defensive when you are getting things out to. But if you feel like it's just one-sided, like you're holding in your concerns, your feelings, and then you have to hear about his all the time, yeah, you're going to be defensive, right? So release some of that. Start these conversations. Talk about what your problems are. A lot of times men want to know what's wrong with you. They want you to talk to them. They want to know how you feel. It's just how you say it. And if you struggle with how to communicate and how you express yourself, you can sign up for my next upcoming group session. Use your words. But if you don't want to sign up for it, that's fine. Just making sure that you initiate the conversations. Go into it being gentle, being open, being direct without being rude or insensitive, and just expressing what it is you have to say. Don't wait for him to start every conversation. You are not going to like the outcome. All right. So ladies, these are the 4 tips that I have for you to help with not being as defensive during those conversations. Hopefully these help. Thank you so much for watching. Peace and much love.